Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for your daily dose of PDC World Championship preview and best betting action from myself, Matt Hill. And wow, what a day we had yesterday. 6 favourites turned over in the 8 games. The seeds are tumbling by the wayside. 11 seeds gone already, and there's still 8 of the 32 to play their second round matches today in what is the final day of action before Christmas. Well, it was a tough all day yesterday, and Joe Cullen got me out of jail a little bit. It was still a loss on the day, but back in Cullen to win that at 11-4 against Nyman and a bet on him to over 4 180s ended up paying dividends because elsewhere it was a bloodbath, wasn't it? Some of those results, I think you maybe could have forecasted easier than others, but no, generally speaking, it was really, really tough going. I didn't see Gary Anderson getting whitewashed by Jeffrey de Graaf. I didn't see Ross Smith getting whitewashed by Paolo Nebreda. I didn't see Richie Edhouse going out in the disappointing fashion that he did to Ian White, and even Dirk van Dijvenbode as well. 3-1 loss to Madars Rasma, who, I've been a fan of Rasma's form in recent times, but yeah, the way Dirk started that game, he really fell off a cliff. So yeah, it was chaos really. I don't think you get many days like that in the World Championship. You do normally get one where there's like a day of shocks. And yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe we'll get another one. Who knows? I think there's an opportunity there now, especially in the bottom half of the draw with Anderson's exit and a few others exiting as well. Michael Smith gone in the bottom half as well. Ross Smith. So yeah, there's angles you could take. We will be having a proper look at the outright market on the 27th of December when the post-Christmas action is about to get going again. So just having a second look at things with fresh eyes, with a few players out of the running and plenty of form in the book as well to see if we can pick out any angles there in the outright and the quarter markets. So that's all to come after Christmas. But today, as I say, the final 8 second round matches, which just wrap things up and leave us with the final 32. So without any further ado, let's dive into it then. The first game is Krzysztof Ratajski taking on Alexis Toilo, and this is a no-bet game for me to start off. Toilo really surprised me in whitewashing Richard Veenstra, although that ended up being one of the lesser shocks, shall we say, over the last couple of days. But yeah, Veenstra didn't really turn up, had a bit of a nightmare on the doubles, but Toilo dealt with him very well, put him away. It was an 85, 86 average, so nothing too spectacular, but a really solid display on the outer ring, as we've seen from a lot of the Asian players in this World Championship. 9 out of 18, I think Toilo was, so a 50% checkout rate. He's going to get the job done a lot of the time. He faces a tougher task here against Krzysztof Ratajski, who's had very middling year, it must be said, but still comes into this tournament seeded at 31. A little bit of a word of warning for Krzysztof. 6 of the bottom 9 ranked seeds, so 6 of the bottom top 32 players, have played their second round game so far, and 5 of them have lost. So he is in that danger zone. You wouldn't be all that surprised if Toilo did push him really, really close. But Ratajski's still a warm favourite for this. I think he's around the 1-5 mark. I've got no interest in getting involved here, to be honest. I can't hang my hat on Ratajski at the best of times, never mind when he plays an unexposed customer like Toilo. So I think this could be a tough watch as well. 2 quite methodical players, Toilo especially. So yeah, not the best, not a vintage game to start the day off. It's a no bet for me. The next game sees Martin Lukeman and Andrew Gilding meet, and I think there's a little bit of value here in speculating and playing the unders 180 line. Andrew Gilding, traditionally a really solid 180 hitter, but he certainly hasn't been finding the lipstick much in his recent TV outings. He's had a bit of a tough time of things, actually. Aside from a good win over Luke Littler, albeit over a short format, I think I've been a little bit disappointed with Gilding on TV recently, and he is sliding down those rankings a little bit. It'll be wanting to have a good run here, but I think he faces a tough task against Martin Lukeman, who's actually been backed into favourite. That's certainly fair enough on the form book, remembering what Martin Lukeman did at the Grand Slam only last month. I was very impressed with the way he dug in against Nitin Kumar, because Kumar took the first set and Lukeman found himself bang under the pump in a game many expected him to just cruise through, and he really had to dig deep. He wasn't playing his best start. He was getting some unfortunate bounce outs and ricochets, and other players, lesser players, could have lost their head there. But it was testament to Martin Lukeman that he battled through. He came out in his press conference afterwards and admitted that he'd been struggling really badly with illness for all the run up to the game, and said he was about 80% there. But if he is feeling a bit rough, this is quite a quick turnaround. He's only had sort of 2 or 3 days off the board and he's back on. So I still think we're not going to see peak Martin Lukeman here. As I say, I have my concerns about Andrew Gilding and form and also the rhythm of this game. Lukeman, quite a quick player, likes to get on with it. Gilding, not the quickest. Could see this descending into a bit of a scrap. So I'm just going to sort of take a bit of a chance, a bit of a gut feeling here that there could be a little bit of a dip in quality off what we would expect to see from these two established players. The under 5.5 180s line is 5-2. I think that's good for a point. And I'd also chuck half a point on under 4.5 180s at 4-1, just in case it is a damp squib. Now, obviously, with these 180 games lines, you can, and with serious egg on your face, because if it goes 5 sets, the sample size of the legs is far greater and you're needing a lot of luck on your side. Equally, I wouldn't be surprised if either player sort of put this to bed 3-0. I have my concerns over both, but generally it's just I have form concerns over both of them. So I'm going to take on with the unders. That's the way I'm going to play that second game. Next up, we have Josh Rock taking on Rhys Griffin, and I'm expecting a bit of a statement performance from Rock, who was one of the form players coming into the back end of the year, wasn't he? He's had a little bit of a tough time of things over the last 12 to 18 months, a lot of hype around him, maybe struggling to back up the results that he had during his breakthrough year. I've heard Rock say a few times he thinks that his performances are an awful lot more consistent, even if the results don't always back it up. And I think the numbers would back up that theory for him. But he finally had some success in terms of results in the last couple of Players' Championship events, didn't he? He got to the final of Players' Championship 28, where he lost out to Wesley Price here. And then he actually won the final Players' Championship of the year, Players' Championship 30, beating Jonny Clayton 87 in a very, very high quality final. The 180s seem to be flowing again for Rocky. And I think he would have been expecting not to play Rhys Griffin, who was very good, very impressive. On his Ali Pali bow, and he was a worthy winner. But I have my doubts as to whether he can back that performance up, especially against someone of Rock's calibre. I wouldn't be surprised to see him score well again because he seemed very comfortable in the scoring phase. But I just think Rock will stick with him a lot more. And I really like the form that Rock comes into this in. I do have my worries about him later in the tournament with composure and consistency on the outer ring in big moments. But I think in a game like this, particularly when we've seen a lot of seeds fall, I think that has the effect of someone like Josh Rock, where it just sharpens the focus a little bit. I don't think he'll be panicking that other seeds have fallen. I think he'll sense an opportunity. He'll really want to come out and put a polished performance on. So he's quite a short favourite to win this game. Again, I think around 1-5. I think taking him on the 1.5 sets handicap, so to win 3-0 or 3-1, gives you a little bit of a leeway there. And as I say, I'm expecting a good performance on the treble 20 bed from Rock, because that's certainly what he did at the back end of the Pro Tour season. I think he comes here in good form. He was obviously in that group of death alongside Nyman and the likes at the Grand Slam, and he played very well in that group, but didn't quite get through. And I just think he's in a really, really good place, to be honest, Josh Rock. I'm looking forward to watching him play, and I think this will be a strong performance from him. So 13-8 about him to win 3-0 or 3-1 and hit over 4 maximums looks worth a point to me. The final game of the afternoon session is Jonny Clayton taking on Mickey Mansell. And I was a bit surprised to see Clayton to win 3-0 or 3-1 up around that even money mark. 10-11, the best price now with Betfred. There is a bit of money coming for that. That's a 2-point win bet for me. That's probably my favourite bet of the day, to be honest. I made my case for Jonny Clayton in our outright anti-post preview. Put him up as kind of a 3-figure outsider that you might want to get on side on the exchanges, or back him to win his quarter at 10-1 or whatever. That quarter continues to open up, doesn't it, with Michael Smith's exit. I do think that Clayton has probably been overlooked. A lot of talk around price, a lot of talk around Dobie. Joe Cullen stamped his authority on things yesterday and made a case for himself. And I think Jonny Clayton is a really professional kind of player in these situations. I think he'll just take care of business here against Mickey Mansell, who was well below par, wasn't he, against Tomoya Goto. It was a tough watch, a slow watch. But I don't think that pace will bother Clayton too much. He's too much experience up on that Alexandra Palace stage. Like I say, he's another man that had a really strong finish of the season. Won 24 of his last 32 floor games on the Pro Tour. He was a little bit unlucky to go out in the first round at Minehead, but I won't worry about that really. He's had some good runs in recent times. On the TV, sort of getting to quarterfinal stages, normally losing to Luke Humphreys, which there's no shame in that. I think his game's in a good place. I think he can do a job on Mansell here. And -1.5 set is a 2-point win bet at 10-11. On to the evening session then, and Ricardo Pietreczko takes on Gian van Veen, and the German is quite a big outsider for this game, which I think speaks more about the quality of Van Veen than anything to his detriment. However, I do think he's been a little bit underrated in the 180 markets because I'm expecting Pietreczko to make this competitive. So to hit over 2.5 180s at near enough even money with BoyleSports looks generous to me. He hit 4 180s in a 3-0 win over Chinese player Zhong, and he was put under a lot of pressure in that game. The scoreline is a little bit misleading. I think he won 3-0 in the end, but it was anything but comfortable. He had to survive a few set darts from the Chinese player. And yeah, I was a little bit worried with Pietreczko's dips in that game. But what he did have is he seemed to put his foot on the gas in certain moments, which he's always been quite good at, to be fair. And I think he's a good 180 hitter. Maybe the numbers this season don't back that up, but don't forget he's been battling away with injury, a lot of time off the board. That's bound to have affected his rhythm. As I say, 4 180s in 3 sets in his first game. So to hit over 2.5 180s here at 17 to 20, and to hit over 3.5 180s at north of 2-1, both with BoyleSports. I think they're both worth having on side. So I'm going to play that with a point on the over 2.5s and then a further half point on the over 3.5s. And if he hits them 4 180s like he did in round one, then you've got 2 winning bets there. So that is my angle into the first game of the evening session. Next up, we have Daryl Gurney. He takes on Florian Hempel, and this is quite a tightly priced affair. And as a result, it's a no bet for me because if Hempel was a little bit bigger in the market, I probably would have backed him. But I think he's been found, and I think he's about the right price now. A very dangerous operator at Alexandra Palace. He's got a really good record here. A couple of times he's came here and pulled off miraculous wins to save his tour card. He impressed on debut with a deep run. He also knocked out Dimitri Vandenberg a couple of years ago. So plenty of pedigree on this stage. Already had a game to warm up where he beat Jeffrey Deswan in a really high quality affair. 6 180s from both in that game. So he must really fancy his chances of turning Gurney over here. But I can't back Hempel at the current price. I think he is the right price, arguably a little bit short now because Gurney is a quality operator who's had a good year himself, probably hasn't translated that into enough sort of semi-finals and finals on the floor or last 16s quarterfinals on the stage. But I think if you look at Gurney's underlying numbers, there's been a lot more good than bad this year. I think he'll be happy with his year, happy with his lot, and he'll be coming here thinking that he can do some damage in that wide open third quarter. So really intriguing game, but it is a no bet game for me. Wouldn't be all that surprised whatever way that one goes. Dave Chisnall takes on Ricky Evans in the penultimate game of the second round. And this does look to me like a potential 180 fest. Over 8.5 180s in Chizzy versus Evans is even money. And I'm going to have a point win on that. I'm also going to just take a chance and play the over 10.5 lines at 23 to 10. That has landed in quite a few of these first and second round games. And that tends to land when you have a good pace and players that complement each other. Games that spring to mind would be Deswan and Hempel, as I mentioned. Scott Williams and Nico Springer was a 180 fest as well. Then we have more obvious games where one player has gone crazy on the treble 20 bed. I'm thinking the likes of Luke Littler, etc. But I do look for these pace angles. I think when two players can get in their natural rhythm and enjoy playing against each other, it bodes well for 180s. And I think you think of Chizzy and you think of Ricky Evans. These are two players that like to get on with it, that are big 180 hitters at the best of times anyway. And there's plenty of reason for me to think that this game could produce the maximums. Of course, for Chizzy, he again finds himself with a bit of an opportunity, particularly with Gary Anderson going out last night. He's in that bottom section. His form has not been anything to write home about on the floor in particular, but, and it is a big but, he has had some good runs at Alexandra Palace. Not finals, not not all that many semi-finals, but he's quite a reliable player in the early rounds, generally speaking. Now, the last time these two played, Chisnall and Evans, Chizzy averaged over a ton, and there was quite a few 180s. Now, that was a Pro Tour game on the floor. It's very different on the stage, but there's enough there to make me think that these two could bring the best out of each other. I expect Ricky Evans to get at least a set in this game, and that gives you a nice wide sample for the 180s to come in. So hopefully this one catches fire. the final night of the final match of the second round, the final one of pre-Christmas, could be an absolute cracker between Rob Cross and Scott Williams. But unfortunately for me, it is a no bet. I was going to try and find an angle in with maybe Cross winning, but Williams hitting a few 180s. But I just felt like I was forcing it a little bit. Williams ultra impressive in beating Nico Springer, 9 180s in winning that game 3-1. I think Springer, had he played anyone else in this first round, probably would have won. Really encouraging performance from the German, but that was kind of how I feared it might pan out when the draw came out. It's the kind of game that Williams loves. A little bit underestimated, perhaps, or his opponent hyped up. And just a little bit of a point to prove. He told everyone in his press conference that he'd been written off, and a little bit of Joe Cullen vibes. Didn't like being written off. So it's a totally different dynamic from here, isn't it? He's the underdog, but like a legitimate underdog, playing a world-class player in Rob Cross. And he's also playing his good friend, stable, practice partner, know each other inside out. So this is a tough game for Scott. I know he's played Rob previously, been well beaten on the stage. He says he won't be showing him the same amount of respect this time, and it won't be like in awe of him or anything. But it's tough. It is tough playing friends, as we've seen a few times in this tournament alone. Connor Scott and Damon Heta were a good example of kind of bringing the best out of each other. But I don't think anybody enjoys playing against their friends on the circuit. And it is maybe something where experience will tell. My gut feeling would be that Cross would probably get the better of Williams, maybe 3-1. And I do think Scott will give a better account of himself than he did previously against Rob. He looks in really good nick. He definitely loves the Ali Pali and loves the TV. I wouldn't completely rule out the upset, but I'm leaning towards sort of Cross 3-1-ish. That's kind of where the market has it. So I'll just sit back and enjoy this game. It's a no bet for me. But can't lie. Very much looking forward to watching that one. Okay, so that rounds off my bets for today at the World Championship. As I say, this is the last set of games before Christmas. We will be back on the 27th to sort of take an overall arching view of the tournament so far and how we think it might pan out in the weeks ahead. I'll just pull those best bets onto the screen for you there. And you can kind of see I've got a bit of a staking plan on a few of these games where I'm having a point on the middle bit of the line and half a point on the next dash down. That is the case for the unders 180s in Gilding versus Lukeman. I fancy Josh Rock and Jonny Clayton to put on good performances in their matches. Pietreczko, I think, has been a little bit undervalued in the 180s line in his match against Gian van Veen. I think he'll play a little bit better than the market anticipates there without maybe getting the win. And then Dave Chisnall, Ricky Evans. I'm hoping that they send us off for Christmas in good fashion and they both catch fire and put an entertaining affair on. Could see that being like 6-4 or something on the 180 count. So let's hope that we can just sneak certainly the main line in and maybe be greedy and nick that second line as well. But yeah, thanks for watching these videos for the pre-Christmas section of the World Championship. I hope you've enjoyed them. It's been topsy-turvy for me. I will be kind of assessing my approach, running through my P&L and just maybe looking at areas that I'm going to try and refine for next year's World Championships. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed them. Any feedback, welcome. I'm going to try and get the videos out the night before, after Christmas, so it gives a bit more time for people to take them in and give me their thoughts. Let me know what you're backing today at the World Championships, any outright fancies, and have a wonderful Christmas. We'll be back at odds now after Christmas to do it all over again. Have a good one.